nature, things of that 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 nature.
What's up, everybody? Welcome into the Pot of That Nature post-game show following Arkansas's 20-10 loss to Texas. Drops the Razorbacks to 500, 5-5 overall, 3-4 in SEC play. Curtis Wilkerson here, joined by Andrew Ellis. And man, Andrew, I am curious to gauge the pulse of this chat today because on one hand, Arkansas came out and showed a hell of a lot more fight than it did a couple weeks ago against Ole Miss. Played a 4-quarter ball game against the top 5 team in the country. But they also lost another close game and did it in kind of familiar fashion with a couple back-breaking mistakes there down the stretch. Couldn't get the final score, couldn't get the final stop that they needed, and then a bad turnover there towards the end. So I don't know how to feel. How do you feel?
Well, I feel like everybody's always looking for like that one overarching like takeaway or that one thing to either blame or celebrate or whatever the case may be, whether it's the secondary, the quarterback, the head coach, the coordinator. I don't really know if there's like a, one person. I guess if you want to look at the O-line, it'd probably be that. But there's not really one thing where you're like, oh man, see, T-Will sucks or Bobby Petrino sucks or even Sam Pitman sucks. He didn't have his team ready. Like, I don't think those things are accurate today. Like you said, I think Arkansas lost to a better football team. We can discuss how good we think Texas is because I think there are varying opinions on that. But ultimately, Arkansas just wasn't good enough to win this particular game. They had their chances. They let some of those chances slip through their fingers. We could piss and moan and like act like we're really outraged by the performance. But overall, I feel like it was about what you would expect. I didn't expect it to be a 20-10 game necessarily, but the spread for this game finished around 12.5, 13. Arkansas loses by 10. Great teams cover. So, I guess there's something to hang your hat on. But overall, like, I don't know if this is going to be the type of game that, like, incites a riot. But I also don't think it's going to be one where Arkansas fans should be, like, celebrating losing by 10 to Texas necessarily, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one, man. It's you look at Texas and what they've done throughout the course of the season, and defensively, this is just about what they've done to everyone. I mean, in terms of total yardage, points allowed. I mean, they just they lived up, I think, to the billing on that side of the football. I thought Arkansas's defense, and then that's Andrew. That's what I was worried about coming into the game. Was just the secondary. Look like they let go of the rope. They did damn near wholesale changes, back there on that end, and those guys held up really well. And Ewers was fine. 20 of 32, 176 yards, 2 touchdowns. But he limited the mistakes. And I thought there were some catchable balls there for Arkansas. They could have created a turnover or two, but they didn't. And, sometimes we always talk about it. And I saw somebody tweeted, I don't know if this is true or not, but somebody said Arkansas is 5-0 when they're, tied or leading the turnover battle, and they're 0-5 when they lose it. And, in a game against a team that's good, you turn it over twice. And you don't force any takeaways. It's kind of what you get. But yeah, I mean, you look at it, 231 yards of total offense, not pretty. Honestly, on the in the first half of the game, they looked like they didn't have a clue what to do or what to dial up out there. Made some adjustments, started actually running the ball in the second half, limited some of those back-breaking tackles for loss and sacks, got things going a little bit, but then, Texas responded with a pretty emphatic scoring drive there after the defense had kind of held them up so long. So just one of those games, man. I don't know.
Yeah, coming off of the performance that Arkansas had against Ole Miss, where I think we would all agree Arkansas let go of the rope. They rolled over and kind of quit in that game, especially on the defensive end. Credit to Malachi Singleton for keeping the offense kind of afloat there in the second half. But defensively, Arkansas absolutely quit in that game. And it was the first time we had really seen that out of Travis Williams' bunch, which for most of this year was kind of holding Arkansas up and keeping them in a lot of these games, like the Tennessee game, obviously. And even the LSU game, I didn't feel like they quit in that one. So coming off of a game for the first time all year where you see a defense quit, that was kind of what I had my eye on earlier, just to see like, hey, did that quit carry over? I know there was a bye week in between, but would this team come out rejuvenated, refreshed? I think that was a resounding yes from an effort standpoint. I thought the defense, you could tell right away, they were still playing hard. They were locked in. And then I also wondered, hey, if they face adversity, will that be the time when they quit? And that was also a resounding no. They absolutely stayed in this game. I thought the defense fought hard. I mean, even on that final possession where Texas finally put the game away, it came down to an inch or two here to there, but the defense was still in there, still playing football, still trying. And offensively, ultimately, Arkansas took too long to get out of first gear. And I don't even know if first gear is appropriate for what they were doing in the first half. I mean, they basically didn't see the ball for a quarter and a half at all. I mean, they didn't get in deep into Texas territory until well into that third quarter. And the defense did a good job limiting the damage. I felt like Arkansas was lucky to only be down 10-0 there for a while. But I felt like the defense really could have used the offense simply sustaining a drive. You don't even have to score, but just keep the ball for a little bit. I felt like it was an unsustainable little method Arkansas had going early. You mentioned that Arkansas finally started running the ball. I felt like Arkansas offensively, and Sam Pitman spoke about this going into halftime, that, hey, we got to find a way to run the football. We can't pass protect. Like, we got to figure something out. I thought they finally committed to that and had a physical brand of football that honestly was pretty fun to watch there for a while. The late third quarter going into the fourth quarter, Arkansas had some really promising drives, but it was a little bit of too little too late. And it's just hard to play from behind when your pass protection is as bad as Arkansas's has been. And I mean, you look at Arkansas's losses in SEC play outside of the LSU game, which I don't really feel like it was a story there, but against Texas A&M, against Ole Miss, and now against Texas, I feel like the game came down to the fact that Arkansas could not block that front, that defensive front. They kind of get overwhelmed by these tenacious pass rushers, and they were swallowing Arkansas up there early. I mean, especially the right side of Arkansas's pass protection really just crashed time and time again, and it just limits your ceiling offensively of what you can do. We can talk about Taylor Green. We can talk about the running backs and the receivers who, outside of Andrew Armstrong, really didn't show up in this game. We can talk about all their deficiencies and what they're good and bad at, but this offensive line didn't really give them a chance for most of that first half. And I felt like Arkansas, once they really committed to getting things set on the ground and establishing that tone, had some good moments, but again, just too little too late. And against a team like Texas, you have to play close to your A game. I didn't think Texas played their A game at all, but I felt like this was like a C+ game for Arkansas overall.
Yeah, probably so. Yeah, and you're right. It was a rough day at the office on the right side of that offensive line for a good majority of things there. And they made some adjustments eventually, and they were sending a tight end over there, sending the blocking over there, and it got a little bit better, but it was almost too little too late. Like you said, they couldn't get out of first gear, man, for the longest. Taylor Green, 17 to 25, 149 yards. So accurate, threw one interception, wasn't on him. It was on Tyrone Broden. Not a great day at the office for him. I saw some people doing the typical get Singleton in there, get Taylor Green out of there. I don't know. I mean, he wasn't effective as a runner, but who is, I guess, against this Texas defense? If we want to complain about a couple times, maybe he held onto the ball too long or whatever. Sometimes that happens, and sometimes your receivers just aren't open. So I get it. Like, he doesn't make the right read every time. And there were a couple questionable ones where he might have made the wrong decision and wound up making a little bit of a play out of it. But I don't think this was a Taylor Green issue in this game personally. And, the Malachi Singleton thing, throwing him in there, I don't know, like, if you would have got, like, what point would it have been for you? Or would there have been a point, I guess, Andrew, where, if they were just continued to scuffle along like they did for 2.5 quarters, is it the quote unquote, get them in there for a spark thing just to try something different? Because I don't know if the results would have been any different at all, but I wasn't there personally. And then about the time I started to consider it, they went down there and scored a touchdown.
You nailed it right there. About the time that I started considering it, because I agree. When I watch Arkansas's offense, I'm actually kind of baffled that people watch it and they come away with being like, oh, the quarterback sucks. That's the problem with this team. The quarterback sucks. Is he perfect? Far from it. But I feel like he's actually made some strides throughout the year and gotten better. He's gotten more accurate throughout the year, gotten more decisive. He made a couple throws in this game where I'm like, wow, you don't make that. Like, that's a throw he wouldn't have made earlier in the year. But I absolutely was at that point when Arkansas still had 0 points where I'm like, they might just have to make a change just to try and switch up the vibes a little bit. And because Taylor seemed to, he was taking a lot of damage, which, by the way, I want to give Taylor some credit from that regard. You mentioned he wasn't super effective on the ground, and that's true. I mean, what he finished with -4 rushing yards. But if you take away the 48 sacks, he actually had a pretty solid rushing effort there. And I felt like you could see there was a point where he felt like, I have to make something happen with my legs. He was very he made a few really nice runs and took some hits. Where, like, you know, for a guy coming off an injury, we kind of wondered how his health would be. I thought he did a good job of just kind of stacking up and being like, hey, I'm going to have to get this first down and just take a lick here. But yeah, I definitely was at a point where I was like, maybe they do just have to just switch something up. But I don't know if putting in a redshirt freshman against that defensive front would have necessarily been a worthwhile venture. And I was glad that the offense was able to finally get something going to where you could see, like, it's not like a Taylon Green issue. It's just, I mean, frankly, not to harp on Bobby Petrino, but I felt like it took him a while to really understand the circumstances of what they were working with. There were too many times where Marion Harris was asked to block Colin Simmons one-on-one with no help, no running back, no tight end chip, and no nothing. I felt like, and then look, eventually they did better about that, and we're getting the ball out quicker. We're throwing some screens, and really they stayed out of those 3rd and longs, which I think was huge. But yeah, I think if you just plug Malachi Singleton into the situation, I don't think he's going to have a ton of success in 3rd and 11 against this Texas pass rush. I think he showed that he can do some things in that Ole Miss game, but I think Arkansas has a much bigger than a quarterback issue. And so I was glad that Taylon was able to kind of get something going there, have a nice drive, just so you could kind of have some type of good feeling. And so you didn't feel like you had to make a move. Again, like we can continue to have the quarterback conversation because I know everybody wants to talk about it, but I think you agree that, like, it goes a little bit deeper than just the obvious, hey, the quarterback sucks.
Yeah, for sure. A couple things I want to talk about here from the 4th quarter, man. Arkansas got the momentum back. It's 13-10. Place was going nuts, which shout out to the crowd, by the way, because that place was wild. And yeah, it kind of goes to show you that if the team comes out and they're playing with some intensity, then the crowd can be really intense too. So it was good to see a great turnout, and they were loud as hell, man. Arkansas cuts it to 13-10. Texas is kind of on that, like that answer drive, and big play is broken off on the left side. Hudson Clark pokes that thing out of there, and that ball just hits the turf, man. And it's like it's spinning in slow motion, just out of bounds. And that's just like Arkansas Razorback football in a nutshell. Just, an opportunity there to get, you give up a big play, but you almost turn it into a huge swing of momentum. And it just gets out of the reach of you before you can recover it. Obviously they go score. But then the main thing there, the next drive, Arkansas is moving it. And then the CJ Brown play. And this was interesting because we haven't seen really anything of him since like the Auburn game, which was several weeks ago. And this wasn't a deal where, he had 5 wide and Taylon's running around and he just finds CJ Brown randomly. And like, this was something designed for him with that tunnel screen. And don't want to pile onto the kid there, but it's a tough situation for him. And then he fumbles the ball, and that pretty much decided it there. Interesting, I guess, to say the least. And I don't know, was it Satania who wasn't on the field at that point? And did he ask to come out? Why was he not in there? I don't know, but I thought that was an interesting play design, which, on the surface, it looked like it was going to get you a little bit, but just going to the true freshman there was interesting.
Well, it reminded me a little bit of when Arkansas was playing Texas A&M, and it was midway through the 4th quarter. Defense has a huge possession, and we see Charlie Collins make his collegiate debut on the defensive line. They went with the 3rd team D-line for that possession to try and give the starters a break, and it ended up costing them that game. Obviously, I think there was more that went into it than just C.J. Brown going into the game, but yeah, and C.J. Brown's a guy that they tried to target a few times early in the year, and it always went south, whether it was Taylon overthrowing him stepping out of bounds, him dropping a pass, something of that sort. And this one was the most disastrous of them all. So a little bit of a nightmare freshman season from C.J. Brown. He's a talented kid, the Bentonville local guy. He'll bounce back. I have no doubt about that. But yeah, it was definitely just a weird thing that happened that, frankly, what should have happened is he just catches the ball, gains 6 yards, and we're not really talking about it. But since the ball went on the ground, we have to talk about it. And honestly, it's the kind of thing that we knew Arkansas couldn't overcome. We knew that Arkansas, if they were going to have a chance in this game, how many times did we say it? You got to get off to a fast start. You got to win the turnover battle. Arkansas did neither of those things, and Arkansas played pretty well, but they couldn't overcome those two simple facts. You lose the turnover battle by 2. It's going to be really hard to beat a team that is more talented than you when you do that, even if you are at home, and even if that Texas team is a little bit overrated, which, by the way, I think if there's a silver lining today, I think Arkansas held up a mirror to Texas and let them know that you ain't really like that. You look around the country and you see the Georgias, and even the Ole Misses. Like, I don't think Texas is necessarily firing on all cylinders right now. They've got some work to do if they're going to really make some noise in this playoff. So I think Arkansas was able to kind of expose some of that, but ultimately Arkansas just can't stay out of their own way sometimes, and they just weren't good enough, Curtis. Like it really is kind of that simple. And it may sound harsh, it may sound unfair. Arkansas had chances to win this game, and game. It was a winnable game. You didn't get an A version of Texas. Should they have won it? We can argue that, but Arkansas just wasn't good enough today to win this game. Maybe they would have been if things bounced a few different ways, but it just comes down to that. Arkansas was at home, played pretty well, wasn't good enough. Like I don't know how many different ways we can say it. Honestly,
things bouncing the other way is that's kind of the whole thing in a nutshell. On those two possessions is like Texas puts it on the turf, you can't jump on it, and then you put it on the turf, and they're right there to gobble it up. And that's what again, some of that's luck and just randomness of football, but at this point in the season, it's, good teams who win games, make those plays, and, teams who find a way to lose don't. And there you go. Quinn Ewers has a noodle, man. I mean, we got to address this real quick, and then we'll get into the chat because I know a lot of people have a lot to talk about. But he was not able to take advantage of some opportunities down the field the way Jackson Dart was. Garrett Nussmeier kind of dinked and dunked him a little bit, but I know what did he have, like an oblique injury? So maybe that's impacting some things. I've heard so much about him, and then, seeing him up close in this game, I just didn't think he had much touch on his deep ball, and he didn't have much behind it either. So from that standpoint, man, Arkansas had a handful of plays there where they made good plays on the ball, but they weren't able to come up with that big interception. It almost felt like for a large portion of that game, it was another one of those situations where the defense was keeping you in it, but you almost felt like they needed to make a huge play for you to kind of get back into the game or get over the top. And they just were never really able to do that. That's not me blaming the defense for this game. Just felt like this was one of those situations where you needed one of those plays from them.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of reminded me of the LSU game in that perspective, where the defense was holding strong for so long, and they were kind of holding on as tight as they could. I can't remember. I think it was like 16-10 late in the third quarter there. And they were playing pretty well, but they never got that 3 and out that they needed, which Arkansas got a few today. They never got that turnover that they needed. It's just really hard to beat a top 5 team without forcing some type of turnover. And so if we're going to give any credit to Quinn Ewers in this game, it's that he took good care of the football for the most part, although he did have a couple that were batted. He's a veteran, and those are the quarterbacks that have given Arkansas trouble all year. And I think Quinn Ewers is a product of the weapons around him and the play calling. And so I feel like he's kind of the perfect guy for this Texas team, because you don't really need a difference maker at quarterback if you're this Texas team with all that talent. But make no mistake about it, that dude's not a difference maker in terms of just talent, despite being a former 5-star. Like, not a real he's not going to throw guys open. He's not going to make plays outside of structure. He's just a guy that's going to take care of the football and do what he's asked to do, which in this game really wasn't all that much. He didn't have to make too many plays, but I agree. I think like guys like Nussmeier and guys like Jackson Dart put a little bit more of the fear of God in you, where it's like, oh crap, if we give these dudes time to make plays, they're going to kill us. Where Quinn Ewers, it's like Texas, you could tell by the way they were calling plays that they don't really trust him that much either. Like they don't really ask him to do too much. And so I was a little bit surprised by that, because I thought earlier in his career, Quinn Ewers was a little bit more of a dynamic quarterback, but man, I think he's the right guy for that Texas team, because they don't need a superstar there. But Curtis, I think we've gone long enough. We've got to do our obligatory Andrew Armstrong props.
Yeah,
Andrew Armstrong continues to be just the most consistent player on this Arkansas team. He shows up all the time. He seems banged up after every catch too. And look, he was Arkansas's one receiver that consistently got open. And again, in that second half, once Arkansas started kind of playing to their strengths, running the ball, throwing the ball to Andrew Armstrong, mixing a little Luke Has here and there, looked pretty good, but they wasted a lot of time throwing to guys that were not Andrew Armstrong, and it pretty much went south every single time.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And folks, we're going to get John in here in just a minute. It looks like he's getting set up. But before we do, one thing I wanted to address is valiant effort or whatever, and that's cool, but I don't know, this didn't do anything to move the needle or change the minds of the people who are apathy has set in. You know what I mean? I still think we're in a situation where people feel, even after the excitement of almost doing this and then not, in just very typical fashion of just kind of I don't know, just a lack of pop right now, and a lack of excitement, or, belief that this thing is going to get better moving forward or whatever. Am I wrong in thinking that? Like, I don't feel like this moved the needle. Like, another close loss doesn't do it, even if it's to a really good team.
100%. Like, it wasn't a good enough performance to really give you confidence to be like, hey, this program's headed in the right direction. Although it was a pretty solid showing, but it also wasn't bad enough to really like incite the mob and really get those pitchforks up and going. I thought it was just kind of a ho-hum result. And yeah, I mean, there's a lot of people that are calling for big picture changes one way or the other. I think anyone who felt however you felt at 9 a.m. this morning about this Arkansas football program, that's probably how you feel at 2:30 p.m. After watching that game. And I got to just say this before we go to John. How funny would it have been if Arkansas had won this damn football game after you have fans funding a freaking billboard that's like, hey, fire the coach? Why do that on the morning of the Texas game?
It's
what
risky.
What are we doing here, man?
I thought they would save that until like after Mizzou or something. And my whole thing with it,
I had a hard time disagreeing had they done it after Mizzou, but doing it the morning of the Texas game, why was that the time to do it?
Yeah, that's crazy, man. And my whole thing about it was I never think the billboard thing is a good look. I don't like the optics of it. But that doesn't mean I don't agree with a lot of the sentiment here about where the football program is and where it's headed with Sam Pitman. I don't like the billboard thing. But yeah, that would have been nuts, man, for sure. And we're gonna get John in here in just a second. I think he's set up. I'm waiting for like a thumbs up or something from him, and then okay, yeah, it looks like he's ready to go. But yeah, that was wild seeing that this morning, man. But to each their own. Hard-earned money went into that. So
yeah, it was very well. It was weird how many people like in the fan base that I would talk to that like thought it was going to be like some kind of gotcha, like it was going to be a moment where like everyone like it was like, oh, now that this billboard's up, they're really going to fire Pitman.
Yeah, exactly. Hello, John.
Hey, what's up, guys? Sorry, I normally would have my actual microphone in, but apparently there's a limited amount of power cords into this parking deck that I'm in again. So
that's okay. We can hear you.
Good.
You got that Rhoback on. It looks nice.
Yeah, you look good.
Yep. At least I look good. I was probably the only one that looked good here in the stadium today. But I will say, guys, like I've been listening to you on. I mean, I'm not going to repeat because I believe and agree with everything you guys said. This was one of the worst game day experiences I ever had. I'm going to be honest. Like this was awful from beginning to end. And it's more like personal stuff that happened. Like more of like I took a Texas fan, Peyton Yeager, who came to town, took her to the game. I thought it'd be okay. It wasn't. It wasn't at all. Like it was bad, and she's leaving home early because of it. So, anyways, about the game though itself, that's like the most to me. It was like the worst case scenario type thing for Arkansas and Arkansas fans, where you played good enough, you played well enough at times, but you still lost. So it's almost like you can't be pissed off and be embarrassed by the performance, but you also don't feel good because you still lost the game. Yeah. And right now in this juncture of Sam Pitman and his tenure, it's really hard to like with this. Like, what do you do with this? And which I agree with you guys talking about the billboard. That was the stupidest thing as far as timing goes. But I don't know. I just feel like there's just so many other things that they could have been doing that was a lot better.
Yeah, for sure. And folks, we're gonna get to your chats here in just a couple of minutes, but yeah, that's kind of where we're at. Like sometimes you don't know what to do with your hands, and we almost don't know what to do with our words because it's almost like how some people talk about like John Calipari, for example, in his press conferences. Every time he does one, Kentucky fans are like, "Oh, he's just playing the hits," and then every time Sam Pitman does a press conference now, it's like, "Oh, he's just playing the hits." I too feel like we're playing the hits because it's just in the same frustrating thing that just continues to play out over and over. And now like the streak is broken, right? Because they've done the win a game, lose a game, win a game, lose a game thing. And now they've lost in a row. Yeah. So they'll have to get it right against Louisiana Tech. But guess what? Nobody will care if that happens. Nobody gives a damn about the Louisiana Tech game other than the few people out there who would be excited about getting to a bowl game at 6-6 or whatever. Or I guess they could beat Missouri, but still, you get my point.
Well, it is kind of funny, like that we have such a like weird vibe about this season, and this game where we kind of knew this was coming, and we don't really have much of a reaction. If they were to beat Missouri, Arkansas would finish 7-5, which like preseason, like everyone would have been like thrilled for. But it just won't feel like that in the moment. I guess if they beat Missouri, maybe we will feel that really like triumphant moment. But it is kind of crazy just the vibe of this season because it's played out pretty much according to plan, right? Like
So far,
for the most part, you may maybe give or take a result or two. And so it is kind of weird that like such a predictable outcome feels as weird as it does, if that makes sense.
Between the three of us, we had Arkansas's range from 5 to 7 wins. One of us is going to be right. All of us are going to be close. So you're right. It is kind of going according to plan from that standpoint, man. This was, hang on, where did that? Oh yeah, here it went. This was funny. From Jeff, he said the game was almost like the commercial with the old guy in the fishing pole. Oh, you almost got it. That kind of sums up the experience. So I will take this over the 63-point we quit on the field in front of the home crowd thing, but it's still frustrating because we just keep seeing it over and over, man.
Yeah, this was a hashtag proud of the kids loss.
Yeah.
Thought they fought hard, Thanks for the fans to come out. 74,000 of them. Another ruckus crowd in Fayetteville. You're not going to be able to fire a coach when you're bringing home 74,000 every week, man.
I thought John was getting ready to say something. My bad. All right.
Should we get into some chats, Curtis?
Yeah, let's get into the chats. We lost the one that we had right before we started. Sometimes those go away.
I don't think we lost this one. You talking about this one?
Oh no, there it is. Okay.
Yeah, Shout out to Lee McElroy, who has started back-to-back streams, I believe, with just electric chats that involve erections. Turn that jukebox on. Just the thought of another year of this gets me hard as hell.
This is at least 2 now, where Lee has been the first into the chat and just very excited. Borderline erotic is how he feels about this football team. So yeah, it's crazy, man.
I started this one just because when you tag us and say you hope we see it, we're gonna try and see it. Yeah. Razor Shark 717 says Texas and fire Pitman already. I hope at Inside Arkansas sees this.
We saw it.
Well, also like it's not the most unique of comments that we've never seen before. I think we saw plenty of Texas and we've seen plenty of fire Pitman already. But if you would like to elaborate, we will gladly hear you out. Caden Jowers is, as the rest of us, kind of baffled by CJ Brown getting into that game. Says CJ Brown hasn't played since Auburn, but let's throw it to him in a pivotal point in the game. Yeah, that's interesting. I'm sure Sam Pittman will 100% be asked about that, and I'm sure he's going to say something, kind of deflect on it. But that was a little interesting, and I'm not trying to like make a mountain out of a molehill. Like I said, in reality, he should have just caught it and went down after 6 yards, and that should have been the end of it. But
right,
that was quite interesting.
Yeah, no doubt about it. We're getting John out of here. I don't know what happened.
We lost him.
Oh,
you kicked me out.
I'm bringing you back.
That was wild.
Yeah.
Oh, now I get to be. I thought I got to be Curtis.
If you want to be me for a minute, you can. We just throw a curveball at people.
Yeah, I mean, it's all good. Our guy SCT, who I feel like hasn't been as ruckus in the chat lately.
Yeah,
he says once again this team has no consistency, and that's entirely on the head coach. Yeah, I guess, but I will say, like, I don't know if this game was like an inconsistent. I feel like this was a pretty consistent performance from Arkansas in terms of just like effort and just it went about like it probably should have went, right?
Yeah, I mean they were projected to lose by 2 scores, and they did. Covered, which is what great teams do. Exactly. But yeah, I don't know. It's a weird conversation to have with the consistency today, because like what this does for me is I would be okay with this type of effort every game, but it makes you wonder, like, okay, well, what the hell happened in that Ole Miss game?
Right.
So it's just it's fascinating to me how you can go from that to this, which was them making some boneheaded mistakes and them losing a game, in typically frustrating fashion, but just like the effort and the intensity that they played with was just night and day different, and just makes you wonder, like, what the heck happened?
Yeah. SCT followed up with TG, as in Taylor Green, played really well today. That's nice. Yeah, he played a lot better than his numbers would indicate.
Okay. Yeah, he was okay.
Yeah, he was fine. And Grant Patrick says, how about that O-line play? Yeah, how about that O-line play? Like we said, man, if Arkansas is facing an above average pass rush, which Texas absolutely has,
yeah,
it's not typically going to go well for them. And CJ Duncan wants to see Deion Sanders.
Yeah, I started that one just because it was funny. But hey, he's rolling though, man.
Deion today, his team's playing some damn good ball. I see now they're almost favored to make the playoff.
Yeah, I mean, they've got winnable games here. So do they? I guess would they play BYU in a conference championship game?
Is there a
Probably.
Big 12 title game?
That I don't know.
I think they. I could be wrong. At one point, the Big 12 did away with the title game.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's that is quite fascinating that Colorado and BYU fighting for the Big 12. Seth Durkin says, fire Sam Pitman and let's get bowl eligible with the remaining staff. Move on into the future.
I respect the sentiment. It ain't happening.
Yeah, no,
you know who we were talking about, like the needle not being moved or whatever by this result, with just the way the fan base feels. It wasn't moved with Hunter Yurachek either. I'm telling you that right now.
Oh, 100%.
Like maybe that would have been a different story if they would have gotten the hell beat out of them or, embarrassed, run off the field or whatever. Maybe that would be the case if they get like randomly punked by Louisiana Tech or something. But this ain't changing his mind about what's going on. So
when it's a close game, you don't really have time to do the big picture combo.
Yeah.
Like I'll be honest with you, like I got to watch this entire 4-quarter game without really thinking, should Arkansas fire Pitman right now? Whereas if you're down 42-6 at halftime and the entire second half is garbage time, you have plenty of time to really think about all that stuff. But I feel like this comment here from Hog Fan 1112 sums it up pretty well. Man, that was disappointing, but at least it was a good game and didn't pack it in. I mean, where you're at as an Arkansas football fan.
The fans were entertained, right? Like I was entertained watching the game until that final drive, until after the fumble.
Right.
And then after that is like, all right, we know where this is headed. But you get into the fourth quarter, so that's nice. This really sounds like a moral victory speech for me, but it's not. I enjoyed watching the game until the end. I guess
this was right on the brink of moral victory. I'm not going to go as far as to call it a moral victory, but it was teetering on it. And if that comment doesn't sum it up perfectly and eloquently, this one right here from Ryan says, defense showed up, offense didn't. How about that?
I mean, that was kind of the case. The offense had 2 good drives, I guess.
The offense did show up for that one drive in the third quarter. You got to give them that.
Yeah, they did.
Curtis, you'll appreciate this comment. Our boy Finch says, can we just skip all the negativity and talk about how we picked up Sealy today over football season?
Yeah, we can. We can talk about that real quick. First of all, check out just our YouTube channel, which you're watching right now. We've got a commitment breakdown of that, and we'll have some more stuff in the morning. I will just say, that was weird today because we were expecting his announcement like right now, actually at 2:45. So we had some stuff pre-recorded for it because we figured we would be in the middle of this show. But then all of a sudden we get a press release from the U of A at noon, 12 p.m. on the dot. That was like, hey, Isaiah Sealy committed, signed, done deal. And like, so some people were a little bit upset about, saying people were jumping the gun or stealing the spotlight from the kid and stuff like that. Yeah, somebody leaked it or whatever, but the U of A put it out there. So, I mean, you can't put it back in the bag after that. So it was a little bit earlier than I expected, but once you get that from the U of A, you can only assume that you're good to run with it. And so I hate it because I don't know what he had in mind in terms of, his announcement and everything. Yeah. And maybe he's
going to be happening right now, right?
Yeah, it should be formally happening now. But, when the U of A sends a release to every media member that it happened, I mean, you kind of roll with it. It's how it works.
Well, and Curtis, I want to give you some credit because, in terms of the someone leaked it, all that, which again, if the university puts out a press release, it's not a freaking leak. Like,
it's not a leak. Yeah.
That's what we call an announcement.
Somebody might have jumped the gun and hit send on the email, but
right. It's like, yeah, if you want to be mad at someone, be mad at the U of A. But Curtis, we were talking about this yesterday. You were kind of deciding how to go about it because you didn't want to be the person who jumped the gun, didn't want to be the person. And I feel like you waited.
I waited until I saw every other. Yeah, I waited until I saw every other outlet had already put their stories out and stuff, and I was like, all right,
might as well now.
I feel bad about it, but we also have a job to do, and if there's anybody to be mad at, it's probably the U of A. So
I mean, yeah, I hope Curtis, that someone in the U of A is held accountable in a very serious way.
That's crazy work, nasty work.
Yes, go check out Curtis's video because I mean, who else do you know is producing basketball content in the middle of a football game? That's good stuff. Shout out to our guy Timothy Long, who says it wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. Defense did great. Offense needs to get going. So I've thought about this a lot. People doing the thing where they're like, man, when the offense plays well, the defense sucks. When the defense plays well, the offense sucks. Well, can we ever get it right? You know what that means? That means you're not very good. It means you're just very average. when you can't decide which one's going to be good, your offense is going to be bad or whatever. Like I think usually it's very rare that you see teams like that ever just like put it all together and actually turn the corner. I feel like it's just going to continue to be a revolving door, and it almost typically aligns with the opposition you face. When you face a really good Ole Miss offense, all of a sudden your defense ain't that great. You face a really good Texas defense, all of a sudden your offense ain't that great. I think it's that's probably responsible for it more. I think Arkansas is again just pretty average.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I wonder, I'd have to go look at it real quick. I have to pull up the game notes, but I just wonder where Arkansas wound up being in relation to the opponents that Texas has faced this year. Because we talked about how they were top 10 in scoring offense, scoring defense, and then total offense and total defense. And I feel like this is about right, aside from the fact that Arkansas held them to about half of what they score on average. Yeah. So for the dude, Buzz Lightyear, whoever the hell it is, the Texas fan that's freaking out in the chat, you didn't dominate anything today.
Yeah,
you did not dominate Arkansas in any way.
Fans feel great about that performance, right?
Yeah, I mean, hey, hats off, you won. I think you have the better team, but I really wasn't all that impressed with you, if I'm being honest. So.
Well, also, like, I think it speaks volumes to the situation of both teams that, like, we're not in here really upset over a 10-point loss to Texas. It's kind of like, it's about as good as we could have asked for. But Braden Wood says this fan base was done with Pitman before the game started, which again is true. Yeah. Look on I-49 for that confirmation. The team fought hard today. Honestly, I didn't think coaching was bad, but still lost. I agree with this statement, honestly, where it's like, I would love to come out here and play the card of, hey, Sam Pittman didn't have his team ready. They fought for him. They played hard. Offense took a while to get going, but I didn't think that was because the offense wasn't ready to play the game. I think they had a tough time dealing with that Texas front. They made some adjustments and got some things going, but it was too little too late. I think it was just the offense ran into a better group, frankly. So there's your credit, Mr. Longhorn fan that won't shut up. Spending your Saturday crying in Arkansas chats, bro. Like, go get a wife. Go get a wife.
Come on,
go
bro.
Create some children. Go procreate or something, bro. Good Lord.
Scoring offense for Texas, they're scoring 39 a game. They scored 20 today. They're allowing 12 per game. Arkansas scored 10. They're 465 yards a game of total offense for Texas this year. What'd they have? Half of that? I mean, we're 315. So Arkansas kind of held them in check there. They give up 251 yards per game, and Arkansas had 231. So it was, for the most part, I don't know, just kind of about what they do with everyone. They haven't been overwhelming in a lot of these games. Vanderbilt played them close. They didn't just blow the doors off of Mississippi State or anybody else really until
the Oklahoma game was closer last week. Score indicated, I would say.
Yeah. So whatever.
That's Oklahoma's season.
Yeah.
Closer than the score indicated. This comment I thought was interesting. He says bad play calling in the first half, should have run more. And then he transitions to Malachi's turn to shine, done with Green. So is it the play calling or is it Green? I don't know how that goes.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Yeah, I pick one of those stances and roll with it, maybe. So.
Right. Like I like the dot. You have like 4 different stances. One of them will work. Shout out to SET who says, can we get Broden to commit to the basketball team? This was something I had not considered, Curtis. I feel like in non-conference play, Arkansas could use a little 6'7" swing guy. Carter Knox is still taking his time to get going. Maybe a little bit of stretch 4 action.
Yeah,
little athleticism on the
floor. They might need the height out there for the next game or two. So why not?
I bet he could guard 3 positions.
Exactly. Anyone who's 6'7" has always been able to guard multiple positions. So.
Yeah. No, whether they can or not, they're switchable.
Yeah.
Positionless basketball. Do you agree with this statement from our boy Braden Wood? Dart over Ewers.
Yes, I do.
I think I do as well. And frankly, I was a Jackson Dart hater coming into the year. I was kind of a hater even going into that Arkansas game. I was like, it really hadn't been that great in SEC play, but I like that.
Just refresh my memory, Andrew. Harold here, he says Green throwing a pick straight to a guy when he had a clear running lane was stupid.
Yeah, that's just simply not what happened.
I think that's what happened.
He threw the ball right to Tyrone Broden, who tipped the ball up, who dropped the ball.
He just did his thing.
He did the alligator arm thing, by the way. Because it's one of those things where, like, and honestly, like, of all the mistakes Talon made today, and he wasn't perfect, that pick was like not even in the top 30. I thought he actually, there were 3 defenders around, so you could knock him for throwing it into triple coverage. He put the ball exactly where he needed to put the ball. And Tyrone Broden did the little alligator arm, tips it up, it gets picked off. Definitely was not right to the guy. If it was right to anybody, it was Tyrone Broden.
Yeah. It's kind of where I was at with it too, but I thought maybe I missed something there. So, and maybe he did have a running lane. I don't know.
Pipe today, Curtis. Arkansas Traveler, shout out to the newspaper. Says you sure wouldn't know that Arkansas hired an offensive line coach out of Georgia as a head coach, especially when we have an offensive line as pitiful as this one.
It's not great.
No, it's not great. I always think back to when Brett Bielema got fired on the field against Missouri. They made him do a press conference afterwards, which I thought, or I don't know if they made him, but he opted to do it, which frankly, if I were Brett Bielema, would not have done. But I remember him in that press conference was kind of like processing everything. And I remember him saying, like, in hindsight, I really should have just, paid a little more attention in recruiting O-line, D-line. Like, I think that was kind of our undoing is we just didn't have a ton of depth up front. And I think on the D-line, Arkansas clearly doesn't have a ton of depth. Although I will say the defensive line for Arkansas held up okay today. Like that wasn't the issue in the game. They had 3 sacks, I believe. Like defensive line was fine, but I think the story of this season or the story of kind of where Arkansas is at is up front on the offensive line, they are just deficient. Like they cannot hang with these top level SEC fronts. And I mean, again, Pitman is the O-line guy. Is it a little bit unfair to be like, hey, you're the O-line guy. You should just always have a really good O-line. Maybe so, but it is weird that it is like the Achilles heel for Arkansas. And look, whether it's fair or not, like that's just the lens people view it through. I'd have a hard time disagreeing with them because what did we all say in the offseason? Well, this offensive line will be better because, Pittman's not going to have a bad O-line twice in a row. And they are a little bit better than last year, but not that much better. Not that much better.
Yeah. And, it's definitely.
You just look at it. They've had 5 years to build and construct an offensive line, and it's gotten worse. I mean, it was pretty solid his first couple of years here. And so,
I'm not surprised that this offensive line is having struggles this year because that's what happens when you have to piecemeal one together through the transfer portal. Yeah. But it is, to your point, it's year 5. Like it's the bigger picture. Why the hell is this a thing that I think is frustrating? And it frustrates me too. I was just kind of surfing to see if we have any Sam Pittman quotes. Like it looks like he maybe just kind of got started. The first one that I see here, we've got a job to do and we all enjoy our job. If you're enjoying who you're around and what you're doing, you're going to work your butt off to fix what needs to be fixed. These kids are a joy to be around.
You do what you love, Curtis. You never have to work a day in your life.
Yeah, what pretty much. That's a banger right off the top. I'll just kind of monitor it and see if anything worthwhile comes up here as we go through the chats. But wanted to get that one out of the way there. So
I'm glad you did. That was good stuff. Well, I'm going to start by bringing up a super chat. Because we love to appreciate those, and we love Hayden Ulmer as well.
Love Hayden, yeah.
He says he's not mad, he's just disappointed. I think that's probably like honestly a fair stance there. And also, Curtis, we have a rule: if someone does a super chat and offers us a head coaching candidate, we will bring it up. We will give them their due. Garrett McCollum says, "Give me Rhett Lashley or give me death." You mean first place in the ACC? Which, by the way, speaking of Rhett Lashley. Every time they show the graphic that's like, hey, here's what the playoff would look like if the season ended today, it's just wrong. They have Miami there as the number 3 over or number whatever. Miami is not leading the ACC. Will they win the ACC by the end? Maybe. You could even say probably. They are simply, if the season ended today, Miami would not be the automatic qualifier from the ACC. That would be our king, Rhett Lashley.
Yeah. Yeah, he kind of went on a tirade about it in one of his recent press conferences. He was like, I don't understand why everybody's looking at the SEC as a 4-big league and, all these multi-bid leagues, but the ACC is only going to get 1. And then he was like, our conference has a winning record against every league in the country besides the SEC. And then he named off a couple games. And he was like, and we might have one by the end of the year. So it's crazy talk. But here's the thing. He's in a really good spot there, and I get it with them not getting the revenue share with the ACC and whatever, but to make a lot of money. It's honestly a low-pressure job for him at SMU, but he's in a high major conference with a chance to go to the playoff like regularly. And then, at Arkansas, it's tougher sledding there. And then he's probably seeing Sam Pittman getting his ass run out of town right now, and he's like, man, there's just something to consider. That's all.
If I'm Rhett Lashley, I'm showing that Pete Thamel tweet to my athletic department about the Kurt Signetti extension.
That's right.
And raise. Yeah. He's getting $8 million a year, and he gets a $1 million retention bonus every year. So that's something. I think Rhett Lashley is going to have the world at his hands this offseason, and we'll see what he does. But yeah, he's put himself in a great position, and frankly, I think Hog fans should be thrilled about that possibility. Is it a real one? Who knows? We'll see. I mean, I think he's going to have some options, but I think if you can make that happen, Hog fans should be thrilled about that. And Curtis, you're going to be stunned to hear this.
Okay,
Kingsley has a level-headed take that makes sense. He says Green gets excessive smoke, honestly. He's far from perfect, but he's not the main issue.
I agree.
I mean, we felt that way for a long time now. It's kind of crazy because we went into the offseason, like during the offseason, I felt like we were kind of like the anti-Taylor Green guys, where we were like trying to temper expectations and tell people, hey, he's a little bit of a project. He's not super accurate. He's going to have his games that he's great. He's going to have his games that he sucks. I felt like we were like the anti-Taylor guys. And now we've somehow come full circle where we're like, guys, relax. He's not that bad. Like,
I think we just had the right expectations coming into it. You know, I think that matters.
Yeah. Honestly, man, I was thinking about this with the Jake Paul, Mike Tyson thing.
Mm-hmm.
If a lot of smart people are all saying something, it doesn't always mean that thing is true. I get it. People pick games wrong. And I'm not even talking about games, but if like we're going into a season and you see a lot of smart people being like, hey, Taylor Green, he's a talented guy, but he's got some work to do, whatever. Just trust those people. If you see a lot of smart people telling you, hey, Mike Tyson's 150 years old and is coming off a heart attack, he's probably not going to beat Jake Paul in a boxing match. Just because I saw a lot of people like surprised by that result, and they're like,
yeah,
I mean, who could have seen this coming? I'm like, well, like literally anyone could have, but whatever.
Yeah, any issue that he's had has been an issue, and it was well documented leading up to the season. I think some people expected him to just suddenly become head over heels better than he was at Boise State by coming to the SEC, just because Bobby Petrino was his offensive coordinator. It's probably a little bit misguided. And so like I expected average to above average, and it's pretty much what we've gotten. But if you expect him to be a damn Heisman candidate and you're getting what you're getting, then I would be irritated by that too.
Yeah. We know it's crazy, Curtis. I think Taylor Green is a better player than he was when he was at Boise State. I think he's simply playing better competition as well. And so it kind of averages out. But Fishman disagrees with our stance. And he says, I saw Taylor get plenty of time. Dude's just a bum.
I think you're
plenty of time. Is that what we're calling plenty of time? I don't know, man. That's crazy stuff. Yeah. But I like this comment. Speaking of Jake Paul, J-Dub says, what does Mike Tyson and Bobby Petrino have in common? The game has passed them both up. Yes, Green is the best quarterback, just like Sam should get a 10-year. Keep rooting on the same old show. Okay, how does Taylor Green shouldn't be benched equate to Sam Pitman should keep his job? Like,
it's unreal.
It's crazy.
The same way me saying the billboard thing was stupid equates to me wanting to give Sam Pittman a lifetime contract. People infer whatever they want out of statements. It's insane, man.
And listen, we get enough of this when we hang out with our significant others, where you say one thing, oh, so that means blank, that means this as well. It's like, listen, it doesn't have to always be that way. So Quit being like women.
Is Aiden Watson usually an angry chatter?
I don't think so. Is he angry today?
He's pissed today. Yeah, he's really mad.
Throw one up there. I don't know if I'm seeing it.
Let's see. There's one. There's another.
What excuses are we making?
I don't even know what this one means. Or this, but because
we said that Taylor. Well, look again. We told you preseason that Taylor Green was a process or a project. We were like, hey, this is not like some guy that's like a veteran that's going to come in here dying on all cylinders. And frankly, like, I feel like Taylor's been as advertised. It's kind of crazy. I like
Aiden. Like, we asked the question, he's like, I am today. He's mad today, and hey, everybody has the right to do that. I was just like, sure. I don't feel like he's usually the one that's like overly salty, It
is weird that this was the game that had elicited the angry reaction. Like, I've been pissed off after a lot of Arkansas games this year. This one, I was like,
when you've had enough, you've had enough.
Yeah.
Like Johnny says here, we're all tired of mediocrity. Me too.
Yeah, which is fair. Well, 100% fair. And Arkansas is mediocre. Let's make no mistake about that. Make no mistake. If you need a team to be very average and never really take the steps forward or the steps backward, Arkansas can do that for you. But
the Razorbacks are your squad.
Yeah, I like this comment here from Hog Fan 1112 or 112. Says, hey, at Inside Arkansas, I'm proud of the way our Razorbacks played today, and we're just an O-line away from being a really good team.
I mean, it would help.
Yeah, it would help. I think if Arkansas had even an average offensive line, I think that probably gets them one or two more wins.
Yeah, you can be. I think it's completely acceptable to be proud of the effort that you saw out there today, and then just over it with the big picture of this situation. Yeah. I think that's okay.
100%. And that's probably the way to do it. This is I'm sorry to bring up a curse word, Curtis, but I have to do it.
Okay.
Because DJ Swag Lightyear said, y'all are effing delusional. Texas just dominated Arkansas, and y'all are acting like y'all won.
I think you're drunk.
I would love to know where we acted like Arkansas won. Like, what about our vibes or what we've said on this post game would equate to Arkansas?
It's because we didn't come in here and hand Quinn Ewers and his mid arm the Heisman Trophy. Like,
don't be mad at us just because your quarterback's got a noodle. All right,
I was less impressed, and it's like the games we've watched Arkansas play. I was less impressed with Texas than I was Ole Miss, than I was LSU, and like borderline than I was Tennessee, even though Arkansas won that game. If I'm being honest, so it's just
Yeah, and Texas might be the best orange UT school Arkansas's played in Fayetteville this year. Maybe. Shout out to our guy Pooh Bear, by the way, he's not even really pushing the Malachi Singleton agenda. He just says he misses KJ Jefferson.
Wow.
Which, by the way, I just remembered that's where all this whole thing started with Pooh Bear. He was really adamant in the offseason that KJ was better than Taylor Green, who, by the way, KJ Jefferson was in Fayetteville today watching the game. Did you see that?
Was he really?
KJ, he posted on his Instagram story, was sitting in the crowd, like literally just like bought a ticket to the game and pulled up. It was him and Dominique Johnson were both there.
So neither one of those guys are playing football anymore? They have bye weeks or something?
Bye weeks is what it is.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah, how about that? Which KJ Jefferson, I mean, I wouldn't say it's worked out. It must be tough to have a KJ Jefferson versus Taylor Green argument, and the answer is no.
The grass ain't always greener.
Yeah. Curtis, I got a question for you. It comes from Johnny Young.
All right.
He says, to all of you guys, does anything about Sam Pitman excite you about this program? He has no energy or enthusiasm, needs to be a funeral director. Eric Musselman would not like Sam Pitman due to his lack of energy and enthusiasm.
Yeah. I don't know if this is the same Johnny Young. I think that was the name that earlier. I was just like having conversation with people on Twitter about the billboard thing. And I said to someone, like, I do not disagree at all with like the lack of excitement in the fan base and with the program right now. And then I'm pretty sure he responded with this exact thing. So like I said, I don't disagree with the lack of excitement or enthusiasm with the program. He's like, are you saying Sam Pitman excites you? It's like, no, actually I'm saying the exact opposite. But no, I mean, that's how I feel. And I think that's how a lot of people feel. And I think it goes to show you that after a, competitive game against a top 5 opponent, that this is kind of the reaction. That's just where people are at with the program right now. And again, not blaming anybody for that.
100%. And look, I think there's at no point throughout this entire season have I been advocating for Arkansas to keep Sam Pitman, extend Sam Pitman, any of that. I also haven't really advocated for them to fire him, which I think that, we can have these conversations later, but it is just crazy that it's like, we have to stake our flag somewhere right now. Yeah. Where I just think there's room to let it play out. And I was saying this yesterday. I will say this tomorrow. I'll say this the week of the Missouri game. Because again, that's going to be another very obvious situation where it's like, I feel like all these people that are so mad at us really probably agree with how we probably are somewhere close on the spectrum, like agreeing with each other. Like I see a lot of people that are like, oh, would you still want to keep Pitman if he lost Louisiana Tech?
No.
Like, would you still want to fire Pitman if he beats Missouri? Probably not. It's like, I don't like it kind of goes both ways. Like, we are absolutely okay with just letting it play out, and then we'll make our determination. Is 6-6 going to be good enough? I don't know. We'll see at the end of the year when they go 6-6. We can have that discussion then.
It sounds like it's good enough for Hunter Yurachek.
Right.
That's been the point I've been trying to make all week. With like, we can feel however we want to feel about it, but based on everything that we're hearing from like sources, people within the program, national analysts, whatever, it's kind of like beat Louisiana Tech and you're Gucci. And everything is subject to change. Like nothing's set in stone, but it just feels like that's the vibe, at the U of A. I mean, I agree with it, but that's where we're at.
And to your point, it doesn't really matter. Like you can get us to admit that we don't want him as the head coach, but it's like that doesn't matter. You think we are in the control of this decision? We're really not. I like our boy Fishman here. I don't know if he's talking to us or not, but he says, "How's making a toilet bowl worth keeping Hitman?"
People always
do these man. Like I don't know. I don't know, man.
Text ass like LS who
That's good stuff. Hey, but you know who is consistent? If this Arkansas football team is not, you know who is consistent? Spectre Streams.
That's right.
Basketball season time, which is true. It is basketball season, regardless. Even if Arkansas had won today, it would still be basketball season.
Right. Big one against Pacific on Monday.
Big one. I mean, hey, Curtis, I'm going to go and say it. Arkansas has to win Monday.
It is a must win for John Calipari.
It can't lose is what it is.
Very much so.
They cannot lose.
They might literally only have 5 guys. Cal's been talking that shit since the summer. We got 5 guys. That might be the case. Monday. Doesn't matter. You got to win.
Shout out to John, because I did see John's text a couple minutes ago, but he says, "Hey, at Inside Arkansas, I hope y'all see this." Because that's what I said earlier in the show. When people tag, I got to do it. But he says, "Internet sucks, and I just got berated by a Texas fan in the parking deck. Poured drink on my shoes. Woo pig suey FML."
John sounds like he's really been
drink on John.
Yeah, he's been having a rough day. I feel like this saddens me because it feels like game day needs to be more of a safe space and a happy place for John. The tailgate situation. You're used to probably losing some games or whatever, but it sounds like he's had a hell of a day, man. It's tough.
It's crazy how much vitriol people have toward John Neighbors.
It really is.
Like, zero animosity towards like anybody. Like, it's, we can get John to talk bad about people here and there behind closed doors but like publicly, he puts out a lot of positivity, a lot of good vibes, and people just really do not like that. I don't understand.
Never has a nicer guy gotten more shit from people and like unprompted.
Well, I don't want to say shout out to Ozzy Maverick, but Ozzy Maverick did give us a super chat. Shout out to him.
He says,
the incompetent Yurchek ruined our AD. Ozzy Maverick was getting after it with our former boss earlier. That was
really? Oh, that's right. With Trey.
Well, hold on. He says Hunter the incompetent Yurchek ruined or I guess is that athletic department?
Maybe. Yeah.
Okay. But anyways,
did
he ruin the athletic department?
I don't know.
I don't know, man. I don't know, man. I don't know what to think about anything anymore these days, but it took long enough, Curtis. But Whitty did pop up.
There we go.
Broden is the single reason Pitman should be fired. Hey, by the way, this isn't the craziest take I've heard. We've read a lot of crazy comments. We've heard a lot of takes. This is not the worst take I've read, because if you really think about it, if Broden doesn't drop that ball, it turns into an interception. We could be looking at a different game. Maybe Arkansas wins. And I think we both agree if Arkansas had effed around and won today, Pitman wouldn't have been fired. So you actually can draw somewhat of a straight, maybe a little bit of a squiggly line from Broden dropping the pass to Pitman being fired.
There you go. And Broden, I guess he fell down on that route or something early in the game, and then the ball goes through his hands for the interception. We were texting each other in the group. And we were like, "Hey, at least we know we'll get a super chat from Whitty today because of this." And
John tweeted about Whitty actually.
He did. He did.
Yeah. Which, by the way, since we're talking about well-mannered takes, how about Hayden Ulmer? He says, "This is the year to make a change. No other SEC job will be open." I don't think this. Look, I really don't want to turn this into like a should he stay or should he go podcast here, but this is a great point to make. This was my first thought when Signetti got his huge extension today. I was like, who does Indiana think they're competing with right now? Because usually you get that extension when you're rumored for whatever. I'm like, I wonder what job it is that they're fearing. Because most of the jobs that we kind of speculated about don't seem like they're going to be open.
No. Yeah. Like Napier's coming back. They're not going to fire Venables at Oklahoma. It's especially in the SEC. I don't think they're going to get rid of Hugh Freeze either. So I get it. Like that's not, obviously that's not the only factor when athletic directors make those decisions, but just in terms of timing and getting the guy that you want or whatever, ain't crazy.
Yeah. Well, I think we're out of at least the chats that I starred.
Yeah.
Any other, if there were any other chats that were worthwhile, they didn't pay us money. So
Yeah.
It is what it is. But Curtis, do you have any big picture takeaways to send us off with on our beautiful Saturday?
No, not really, man. I mean, I feel the same way I do after most of these games, like I said, my takes at the end of this are exactly what they were at the beginning, which is I was happy to see that Arkansas hadn't completely folded and packed it in for the season, but still as frustrated as ever after losing the game the way that they did. We just continue to see it over and over. And, I don't think that this moved the needle with the fan base or Hunter Yurachek. And we're just going to have to see what happens over the course of the next couple of weeks. Watch our basketball content. And thank you for tuning in.
That was beautiful. The last message I'm going to have is, you know why Arkansas lost today, guys? NIL.
Yeah, that's right. Blame it on that.
Blame it on the NIL, NIL. You know that song? The alcohol. Blame it on the alcohol.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Well done. That was pretty good.
Syllables to fit, but
Yeah, I didn't understand it at first, but as you were saying it, it was coming to my head. And I was like, okay, there we go. So whatever. We're out of here. Appreciate everybody for tuning in. We really do. And hopefully we gave you a safe space to vent and get it all out there. Even the random Texas fan that was freaking out. Thanks for tuning in, dude. Anyway, appreciate you guys. Been Curtis Wilkerson, Andrew Ellis, Inside Arkansas, Pot of That Nature. We'll see you again soon. We'll have the accountability report, I guess, the report card, I guess. Be on the lookout for that. We're out of here. Appreciate y'all.